Sex Party with your host, Dustin Rybka.
Hello and welcome to Sex Party. I'm your host, Dustin Rybka. Did you know that if you stick to clear liquids when you're partying, you're 30% less likely to have a serious hangover? Let me know in the comments or in the DMs if you've tried it. This episode this week takes a bit of a left turn. I don't want to say too much. My guest is Jacqui Pugh. Jacqui is a freedom and fulfillment coach. She is a certified full life transformation coach, a master practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming. So listen, Jacqui knows her shit. She's helped a lot of people with relationships. She's helped a lot of people get to a place where they desperately wanted and needed to go. She's insanely smart. And this was a great episode. A little crazy, but fun. It gets very personal for me. You'll see. Without further ado, this is my conversation with Jacqui Pugh.
This week's conversation.
Jacqui Pugh, hi, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm great. I just had a super healthy dinner, so I'm ready for this. How about you?
Yeah, I'm wonderful actually. Yeah, I'm good. Today kind of feels a little chaotic, but you know what day lately doesn't feel chaotic, right?
We have those days. Yes.
I'm super glad you're here. I'm really excited to jump into some stuff with you and really get into it and ask the fun questions, the tough questions. For the audience who may not know who you are, what you do, can you intro yourself and talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Hello, everyone listening. I'm Jacqui Pugh, a freedom and fulfillment coach. I'm also a certified full life transformation coach and a master practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming. It's a lot of words. So what the heck does all of that mean? Basically, if someone is feeling blocked somewhere, and somebody might be feeling like asking, what the heck does blocked mean? If you're feeling like there's a goal that you want to reach and you keep self-sabotaging, or you keep dating the same type of person over and over and over, or the same type of situation keeps happening to you and you don't know why, or you have emotional things that happen in your past that you haven't dealt with, a lot of stuff that I'd say 99.9% of the time that the work that I'm doing with clients is all stemming back to childhood. Like there's usually something, whether it's significant or super insignificant, those limiting beliefs that we have, I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not tall enough, fill in the blank, they usually stem from childhood. And so I help you figure out where they started, and then I give you a tool to not magically make them go away, but to magically help you get out of it in like 5 seconds versus going down a spiral for 5 hours or 5 days or 5 months. So it's really powerful.
Yeah, or 5 years.
5 years? Your whole life.
You're right. Okay. So, and how do you go about doing that? What is just overall, like, what is your process for working with people? Let's say I come to you and I'm like, hey, I'm a fucking mess with dating or with whatever it may be. Then what do you just throw me out of the office, or what? How does this work? What's the process?
No, I say, yay, you're a mess. My coaching hat is like blinking. No, I first I want to hear your story. And I want to see if it's something that I can relate to, and if it's something that I truly feel that I can help you with. Because if I don't feel like I can help you, I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste your money. I want you to get the help that you need. That's why I got started in this work. So I will refer you to somebody else if I feel necessary. But if it is something that I feel that I can help you with, which usually it is, and you might not guess by the sound of my voice or how I look, but I've been through some things. So I can relate to my clients on a lot of different topics. And first, I want to hear your story. I want to make sure that we can jive together, that we could be honest, we could be open, we can have fun together because we're going to spend a lot of time. And then I get you set up in my burn program. So burn is using your old flame to light your new fire. And it's a group coaching program. And the reason why I do it in a group setting is because I've had one-on-one therapy, one-on-one coaching, I've had group coaching. All of them served a purpose. All of them helped me grow and get out of my rock bottom depression that I was in. All of those things helped. But what I saw help the most was being in a group coaching program. So if you're having a breakdown and you're sharing about it, usually your breakdown is something where I'm like, oh my God, I totally do that too. Or I had no idea that that's why I was doing that thing. Now I can do something about it. And also, so many people, we don't have a support group around us. And you have to wait a month to go see your therapist, which there's nothing wrong with therapy. Like I said, it serves a purpose. But usually you go to your therapist, you vent about something. They may or may not give you a new perspective. You leave. You can't talk to them until your next session. The same type of situation happens, different circumstance, different people maybe. You go, you vent, and you repeat the pattern. Where working with someone like myself in the particular work that I do, my burn clients have access to me 24/7 within reason. So if something huge is happening in their lives, they don't have to wait to talk to me for a week or a month.
Yeah.
We nip it in the butt right away.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So all of that being said, was there something that happened to you that then made you seek out a dating coach or a fulfillment coach or some sort of mentor, and then you noticed like, okay, wow. And if so, what was that thing that made you want to do this?
Yeah. There was a thing. There was more than one thing.
Let's do it. Come on, give it to me.
Let's do it. So I'm pretty much an open book. So anything goes with me, and I feel that transparency is the only way to get anywhere. And we all want deep connection, so just be honest about it, right? So for anybody listening, if you ever see those people that act like nothing goes wrong in their life and everything is perfect now that they worked on themselves, it's not true. Life still lives. Things still happen. It's about having the tools to work through it more efficiently. So for myself, it was 2016 and I had been through my third, like in a row, traumatic breakup. I was doing real estate full time. I hated it. It sucked the soul out of me. I knew I was supposed to be doing something bigger. I had found my life coach by total accident. He was my surf instructor. In 2011. And I was like, who is this guy? I want to be around his energy all the time. He's so cool. And now he's a very well-known coach, but that's where he got started. And so when I saw what he was doing and creating a business out of inspiring people through mindset distinctions, I knew in my soul, I'm like, that's what I'm supposed to do. I've always been the inspirer. I've always been the motivator, but I had my own limiting beliefs. I'm like, at the time I've done a lot of things, but at the time in 2011, I was in LA for acting and voiceovers. And so I had this whole narrative running in my mind. Who's ever going to believe what I have to say? I'm a broke actress living in LA, not even realizing he was a broke surf instructor living in LA. And I believed everything he had to say.
Yeah.
So, one day I was depressed 2 months straight. I didn't work. I could barely get out of bed. I made it to the couch on the end of the 2 months. And that was a win. And I finally asked myself, what is the common denominator in all of the unfulfillment in my life? In my finances, in my dating patterns, I kept dating the same type of guy over and over and over. Same situation would happen. Situations with friendships, with family, finances. I'm like, there is something to blame all of this on. And when I find it, like, I cannot wait.
Yeah.
It is on.
Yeah.
And I found it. And it was me. And I was like, what? It's me? And I had like 5 minutes of victim mode. Like, poor me. How can it be me? Mm-hmm. And then I realized if I'm the common denominator, then that means I actually get to change it. I'm not waiting for something outside of me, for my crappy boss or the guys that I dated or fill in the blank to change. I have the power to change it right now. And that's when my coach that week happened to launch a 6-month long, deep, intensive program. I had no idea how I was going to pay for it because I was so depressed I wasn't working.
Yeah.
And I made a way out of no way, and I never looked back. And now I have all my certifications, and I help people all over the world do what I did. And it's the most fulfilling, gratifying experience to see mind-blowing transformations.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, first and foremost, let's just get this out of the way. You have an amazing voice for voiceovers. I know you already know this, obviously.
Thank you.
So that's cool. That's a thing. And I can totally see that. And that same energy, that you use with coaching or dating or just being like an energetic person, you can apply that to acting as well. So I love that sort of loop. A lot of creative people start trying to be an actor and then they find their way into other things, and I think that's amazing. So that's awesome. So the realization that you had that it was you, that's the incredible piece of, like, the really incredible piece of this, at least for me, because I think that is something that I think all of us know but don't want to admit, right? That we're the ones that are shooting ourselves in the face over and over again. And it's really hard to swallow, especially for some personalities out there. Yeah. So did that piece where, hey, it's me, and the good news is the bad news is that it's me. The good news is that I can fix it because it's me. Did that then inform how you coach people? Is that just a major piece of your burn program? Is that you're trying to get them to own their shit?
Yes. But I only work with people who are ready to own their shit.
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah.
I can't make somebody want to make a change just like you can't, right? There might be people in your life where you're like, oh, they just need someone to show them the way, but they're not ready. And I wasn't ready for the longest time either. And I was like, well, maybe therapy would help, but like, I don't even know what I would work on. Like, I felt really lost around it. And honestly, I went into that program thinking that I'm going to figure out what my dating issues are, and I'm going to figure out my vision. And what I actually spent 6 months doing was dealing with my relationships with my family and the beliefs that I took on, and dealing with myself for 6 months. And that is not what I thought was going to happen at all.
Yeah.
And I was okay with it because I felt more fulfilled than I had ever felt in my entire life. I did not know that was possible. Like, I was still a happy person, like a bubbly person most of the time, but I definitely I don't know if you know the Myers-Briggs personality test. I'm very much very high on the F for feelings. I'm a very emotional human being. But I never felt more fulfilled in my life by working on those things. And so when I work with people, I don't make anybody go where I haven't gone myself. And I know what that transition and that journey is like because I've been there. So they're not alone in it. And I see their light. I see where they're going. So I'm not sitting there crying. Like, I hear stories all the time. And people are like, oh my God, it's probably so hard to hear these stories. And one of my coach, Preston, he talks about thinking about all of this as a house. And you can go, if someone's upset about something, you can go downstairs and talk to them in sympathy. And that's poor you. I can't believe that's happening to you. I'm so sorry for you. Well, we just went downstairs to talk about that. So I'm actually helping you stay down there by being like, poor you. Yeah. I'm enabling that behavior. Right. I could also go downstairs and have empathy with you and be like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. I can't imagine what that must feel like. And now I'm putting myself in your shoes and now we're both crying and nothing's getting accomplished. Or I can say, hey, let's talk and let's go upstairs to talk. I want to hear about it. You're going through sex, and let's figure out a solution. But let's do it upstairs. So that's where I meet my clients at when they're ready to meet up there. And what we do is we heal, deal, and move on from the past. They got to face the things that they have been suppressing, that they have not been wanting to look at. That's where the gold is at. I can tell you firsthand from myself and every single one of my clients that I've ever worked with It is the stuff that we don't want to look at, or that we think like, it's no big deal. I just suppress it. Like, I don't need to think about it. It's not the end of the world. Mm-mm. That's where the work is at. And that's usually when my clients go, I shouldn't say usually, every time my clients go, you want me to do what?
Right.
And then I have them do the thing. There's a whole process that they go through. And they've never had not one person come out of it and say, thank you. I feel so much lighter. I feel so much lighter from that. So first we got to work on the past stuff. We don't relive it, but we visit it. Then we look at their patterns in their life, not just romantically, but every area of their life. What are they? Why are they there? What are we going to do to change it? We look at their personality type, their attachment styles when it comes to love, their love languages. We look at their value system, which each person, you and I have totally different ones. Everybody has different ones. We have 5 subconscious values that dictate whether we end up being fulfilled by our decisions or not. And usually we don't know what those values are, and we don't know why we're unfulfilled. But when we know what they are, then we can say, do I eat the salad or do I eat the burger? Do I buy the house or do I rent the house? Do I stay with this person or do I leave this person? Because if one of our values isn't going to be met by that decision, just one. In the beginning, we might have instant gratification, but long-term vision, we end up feeling unfulfilled. So when we know what those values are, we can make more aligned decisions. And then once we have all of those pieces, plus I take them down all these neuro-linguistic programming techniques to really, really get into the nitty gritty of I'm not good enough, fill in the blank at whatever. And they start rewiring their brain. Then they look at their standards. Now they're clear on who they are. They're clear on what they want. They're clear on who they want to call in. And so they look at and create their new standards on what are they allowing and no longer allowing in their life. What is the bare minimum that they're willing to operate at? And then they create their new vision and I set them free. And the most people, like, they might need spot coaching, but they don't need ongoing coaching like therapy, because they have the tools to get through things. So if there's something big that comes up, they're stuck, they reach out to me, we work through it, awesome, and then they're on their way. It's powerful.
Yeah, I mean, that is an insanely powerful process because you're using their strengths and their weaknesses to inform their news story, really, and it's one of those things where with really good therapy, at least just in my opinion, it provides you with the tools that you might need to talk to somebody every couple of months or something, or a couple times a year. But you have those things at the ready every time you start to have issues, and you kind of like, in a way, you kind of reprogram not yourself, but your way of thinking. So that's really great that people are leaving the situation with you, and they might need a little boost every now and then. But they're pretty much like dealing with their stuff. I would imagine that's really difficult for people to look in the mirror, though. And I would imagine that there's, some real apprehension that comes from your clients that they just don't want to see. I mean, I know for me, I'm totally willing to like own my shit. I'm totally willing to admit when I'm wrong. I'm totally willing to do all of those things, and I'm okay with that. But I just don't like, the idea of, I guess it's like being vulnerable. I hate that feeling. So that's my sort of, thing that always comes up. I think it's one of them, at least. I've got a ton of fucking hang-ups. Like I said, I'm a mess, but, so there's gotta be those things that sort of prevent people that you see quite a bit with the apprehension.
So one of the things that I do when I interview people to join Burn is I got to make sure that they're 111% committed to showing up and doing the work, because I'm 111% committed to my clients, because I can give you all of the tools and all the answers all day long, but if you don't apply it, you're not going to see any change, right? And that's a waste of everybody's time and energy. So I make sure that they're ready to get on board and do the work. And I have had 2 clients in particular that are popping up that were extremely skeptical of the work. And one of them is now becoming a coach herself, going through the
Oh,
same
wow.
certification process that I did because it changed her life so much. So I just make sure that you're ready for that change. And if you're ready for that change, then I got you. I'm there for you. And I know part of the process of what I do is vulnerability. And you brought up hating to get vulnerable.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my question for you would be, are you single or in a relationship?
So I am single. I've been single for quite a while, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what type of relationship do you typically want to have?
I don't know. I feel like I think, oh, I want these things, right? And then
Like what?
whenever, like, something that's not absolutely just mind fuck bonkers, like someone like a relationship that's mature and more like a partnership rather than like, let me see your phone, or I really don't do well whenever anybody would like tell me what to try to like control. I hate that, and
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not interested in controlling anybody else either. So and
Mm-hmm.
for me, that's so I'll have these ideas like, oh, I would love to be in a mature adult, whatever the hell that means, relationship. But then I never take any steps, or if I do meet someone and get close um, to something else happening, I like just completely bail out. And actually, I have in doing this in this podcast, um discovered that, I mean, I knew this, but now I have a technical term for it. I'm like a an avoidant attachment
Mm-hmm.
person,
1000%.
which
Yes.
I'm sure you already knew. Yeah. And so about 2 years ago, just before COVID hit, ironically, I noticed that there was a lot of heartbreak around me. There was a lot of like women that just weren't happy, and I was always up front like, I don't want a relationship, I don't want to all that bullshit. And I thought, oh well, I'm telling them, but somehow, even though I was telling them, it's not my fault, I'm telling them, whatever. I was doing that for a while, but I looked around about 2 years ago and I was like, man, even though you're upfront and you are honest with these people, because honesty is like a really big turn on for me, just to be honest, and I just love that shit. So whatever. But that's another show. But even though I was being honest, there was still this like sea of broken hearts and glass everywhere, kind of. So I was like, yikes, I kind of like shut myself off and was like, stop flirting with people, stop talking to people. And I kind of like have been, and then the COVID hit. So here we are. I'm in this really strange space, and I decided to start a sex and relationships show. So
Why? Why
there,
did you decide to start it on that topic?
because I found that almost all of my relationships that I found meaningful, or conversations, friendships, they all revolved around sex, and they all revolved around relationships. I had a lot to say, but I also have a lot to learn. And I just am super curious about those connections. I almost sort of transition into like a host, and I'm the host, and this is the show, and these are the things that I'm curious about. But then in my real life, it's kind of like, I don't want any of that. So I'm very curious. It's very I'm very complicated and contradictory person in everything that I do and say, and I'm totally fine admitting that. That's just part of who I am. I get tired of it, so I can only imagine what people who date me are like. Jesus, buddy, like.
So, can I ask you, when you were little, were your parents together or not?
So my birth parents, my mom and my birth father separated before I was
Mm-hmm.
born. So no, they were not together.
Okay, so my next question is, did your parents have a relationship at all? Like, did they keep in touch, or was one of your parents completely out of the picture afterwards?
Yeah, so they were really, yeah, there was no relationship there. It was maybe a little spotty like when I was first born on like visitation or this or that or whatever, but then it just flatlined after that, and there was no contact for a long
Between
time.
who? Who did you stay with?
Um I stayed with my mother, and there was no contact between the two of them. Or me. I didn't meet my father till I was 10, so
Okay.
yeah.
And how did that go down? Did you ever ask questions about your father? Did your mom talk about it? How did you end up meeting him?
Yeah, my mom was always really open about it throughout my life. I think, when you're that young, um you don't really process, but she was always really upfront about it. But
What
I
did she
just don't think that,
say?
just that, I had a biological father who was out there, and she always wanted to make sure that I was aware of that, because she married when I was 2, so I grew up with my stepfather. Um, and so that was like a weird dynamic. But I think when I was like around 9, um, I started to ask questions, and life, was like happening to my mom, I think she realized at that point, like, okay, I got to make an introduction. I got to see what he wants to do or whatever it was, and she did. And I
Hmm.
met my father when I was 10, I think. 10,
And
yeah, I
how did
was
that
10.
go?
Um, it was weird at first, of course. You're
Hmm.
9 or 10 or whatever, and you're in a car going to meet your dad for the first time. It's very strange. It's very, very strange. I can remember vividly what that was like. At first it was cool, and then just as things progressed, as I started to age up, get older, um, it just became apparent that he wasn't a dad. He wasn't a good father. He wasn't. I don't know. He wasn't father material, and that sort of started a rift between us or whatever. And it's just been, kind of all over the place ever since. I'm in a place with it now where I'm cool with it. Like, we're
Hmm.
not close, and that's fine. It is what it is. He's kind of like the drunken buddy that will text you, and I've learned that that's just who he is. So great. He's not really. I don't really look at him as a father. So it's kind of like, sure, I'll goof around with you and send memes back and forth, whatever. But that's all our relationship is.
Hmm. So
Um,
when you were little, and I love that you were at least acceptance of it, is what it sounds like
yeah.
right now. Um, and when you were little and you met him, did you feel like, oh my God, I have, like, this is my real dad? Like, were you excited about it? And then he started disappointing you?
Yeah, I was very overwhelmed at first.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, you're at dinner or something. It's this bizarre thing, and I come from, on my mom's side, like a really blue collar working class family who didn't always have money for stuff. And then when I met him, he was like, kind of wealthy, and here's $5 for the arcade. I'm like, $5, so that was like overwhelming, on top of, how do I process this? Who is, oh wow, I do have a real dad, or whatever those things were. Sure. It was kind of the wonder of it all when I was young. It was exciting to a point.
Mm-hmm.
He liked to try and spoil me, and like all of those things. But also, I just, that's great when you're a kid. It's fun. Sure. Comic books and arcade and, whatever. But
Right.
I wanted something more. I wanted like a real relationship. I wanted to try to figure out who I was and was going to become, even back then.
Mm-hmm.
And he just never could offer me any insight into what it meant to be in this bloodline, what it meant to be a man, what it meant to be, you know, with women. Nothing. I mean, there was nothing there. It was just like a fuck around,
Mm-hmm.
So
when do you remember, like, around how old were you? Like, how long did that last before you started realizing what you
this
just
guy's a
told me?
dick.
Mhm.
Yeah. I would say probably around 13, 14. So the first 2-3 years were like fantasy world, vacations and spoiling, and the cooler parent who's doesn't feel like a parent. He's your buddy, that kind of thing. But yeah, once I started to get sort of slightly more self-aware and into high school, it started to get real.
And if you could sum it up in like a couple words, how did it make you feel when you had the realization of he's not who I thought he was?
It was,
If you're being totally honest with yourself.
yeah, it was very cutting or sharp, or like it was very abrasive feeling. It was like a cold water. It was very shocking, for lack of a better term. It was sort of like a punch in the in the in the soul, but also like a punch in the dick too. Like it was just really painful, but it was like fast.
Yeah.
I had already kind of gone through a lot of turmoil with my stepfather.
So I
There
want
was a
to
lot
hear
of
about that. Like,
yeah.
what was that like? If you could sum it up in one sentence, what was that like?
It was very one-sided. I think being older now and looking back, I think he was just unable to rationalize the idea. Every time he looked at me, I think he just saw some other guy that my mom had sex with and had a child with and loved, and he took that out of me a lot.
So I love all the realizations that people have as we're adults and we look back and we get it, right?
Yeah.
But the work that I do is we focus on where you were and what you were feeling when you were little. Because deep down, there are beliefs that get created during that process. So I just want to know, when you were little, like between 0 and 7, 0 and 9, if you could sum it up in a couple words, like to describe what your relationship was like with him, like how he treated you or how he made you feel, that'll give me a lot of insight.
So he made me feel really unwanted, scared. It was a violent relationship. It wasn't healthy, so there was a lot of that going on. And I remember specifically as a kid, something I felt as a kid, which has stayed with me now, is just this idea like no one's coming to help you. Your mom can only do so much. She's stretched thin. She's doing her best to try to protect you, whatever. No one's going to help. You have to help yourself. You're alone in this. And so I don't know, I just sort of adapted in that way and did my best to sort of, stick up for myself, that sort of stuff too, but mentally protect myself, I think, and not take it personal somehow. I don't know.
Well, we put up walls, right? We put up walls to protect ourselves. So with your mom then, so it's great insight, and thank you for sharing. And with your mom, what was your relationship like with your mom between 0 and 9?
So she was always just there and provider. She worked 2-3 jobs sometimes to make ends meet, and was battling her own stuff. I just remember thinking, how hard of a worker she was. Somehow I had an understanding at that young that she was like really kind of breaking her back to take care of my sister and I. And she knew there was stuff going on, and she stopped anything she ever, was a really good, strong parent. She did a fantastic job. I think the only reason why I have any sort of sanity left now, or was able to, I don't know. She just, she was a protector and a provider. And I remember just being young and somehow realizing like, Jesus, it's back going to work again or something, like
Mm-hmm.
I remember having that realization.
So would you say that she was emotionally available for you? Like,
Yeah.
or was she mostly just like not there because she had to work? She had to do what she had to do.
That's the thing is whether it was kind of sneaking in after we had gone to bed to kind of, have that 2 seconds, with your
Mm-hmm.
kid, how was today at school, yada, yada, that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Or it was, I'm gonna maybe not, put gas in the car so I can buy you this toy, whatever it was. She always made sure she was available emotionally. So she was, and
So when I
two,
say emotionally, I mean like you're like, Mom, I had the worst day. I want to talk about it. Or my stepdad is beating me and this is what it feels
right.
like that type of way.
Yeah, she was there for it. Yeah.
She was there for it. Okay.
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's great. But the men were not. Yeah.
No, there's just a bunch of assholes,
Yeah.
really. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing, and I would have to dive deeper with you, but the tiny little bit that I'm hearing, it makes sense to me why you're more avoidant than anxious or secure in relationships like that, like romantic relationships, is because what you were taught is that love hurts.
Yeah.
Love leaves you, love abandons you. And so it's better to not get close and to put up those walls and to push people away or end it before they can hurt you.
I mean, that's a super interesting point. I mean, I think, it, is it always from what we experience as a between 2 and 7, like you said, or can, because I do feel like a lot of my life as an adult, early adult, circumstances have affected my thoughts and avoidant behavior too. So
Oh,
I
it
don't
all
know.
affects it.
Okay.
It all
Yeah.
affects it. It's just usually where it's grounded in, where it started.
Yeah.
And then it can snowball from there, or it can
Right.
change from there. It can absolutely change. My attachment styles and the way that I show up in the world have changed because I've done the work that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier that all of the relationships that you've been in, and let me know if there's any that were not like that, but
Mm.
the girls usually ended up feeling like, what are you doing? I need to see your phone. I don't feel secure. And then you would kind of shut down, right?
Yeah, I mean, shut down is putting it mildly. I would just turn off,
Mm-hmm.
and I would be like thinking about someone saying to me like, "Where were you?" Or "Who is she?" or "What is this?" or this, or like wagging their finger at me as I'm saying it to you in this very moment. I'm starting to feel nauseous. Like the idea of anyone. And so for me, and I'm not trying to derail what you're
That's
saying or
fine.
doing, but for me, I think any relationship, and this is my own personal belief, any relationship that's like that, that where there's, well, he wears the pants or she wears it, I am so like, oh no, I don't want anything to do with that. Um, and you know, yeah, I mean, most of my relation, and I haven't had that many, to be honest. I've had a lot of flings. I've had a lot of emotional relationships that, I'm close with someone, we sleep together, but it doesn't go anywhere. But it goes on for years or something. There's been just a plethora of all different kinds of
And do you
relationships.
try to make them move forward, or why do they end up ending?
I think I just get to a place where I'm not going to go any further, and I become like this immovable
Yeah.
jackass, and I'm kind about it and I'm honest about it and I'm open about it, but people just don't want to believe that that's where it's at. So they keep trying and keep trying, keep trying. And that's where I think a lot of my empathy or guilt started to seep in, because even though I was being honest, they were still winding up upset. But for me, I've had probably 3 serious relationships, maybe 4, that were was like we're really in a relationship, we're committed, it's whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
other than that, I've had just a shit ton of other relationships, other,
Yeah.
and I think all of it is meaningful to me in my own way, you know.
Yeah.
It's just and that's why I'm so glad that you're here to have this discussion, because it's mind-boggling to me. It's fascinating to me, even looking at myself in this case, that you can have so much on one side, but then 1 or 2 things on the other. For instance, as much as I am almost like anti-relationship or whatever, or I'm gonna throw up on the microphone because I'm thinking about someone like screaming or whatever, and I would never put up with those things. There is this weird little, on the other side, there is this little curiosity, like, well, maybe it's time to try and meet someone or date someone. Then it's like these 2 competing Jekyll and Hyde.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely a Jekyll and Hyde, you know, psychopath here in this instance.
Okay. So earlier you had mentioned that you like honesty and you find
Hmm.
that a turn on, and you get super scared to be vulnerable.
Right.
So, in your mind, what is the difference between honesty and vulnerability to you?
I think honesty for me is easy because it's practiced. I've practiced it a long time. I've said things that were like, well, maybe it was too honest, or I've said things,
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's not enough. And it's been years of me being honest. And I found, the quickest way to your destination is a straight line. So just be more pragmatic, start being honest. And you can practice that in whatever. It's still difficult, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Um, at this point it's pretty easy for me, but I can imagine for other people to be honest is difficult, where vulnerability in my book is excruciating,
What does that
because
mean?
I can't even really be vulnerable with myself, if that makes sense.
So, what does vulnerability mean to you? Like,
i
what's
i
an
think
example of something that would scare you to be vulnerable about?
that's a great question. I think vulnerability is the difficult part of it, at least for me, is just being so open and so uh like for some reason I'm associating vulnerability with neediness and weakness, because I mean, being vulnerable, you're being open, and you're open to
Mm-hmm.
being weak. So that's like stuck in my avoidant brain. And so when I associate those things, I don't want anything to do with that.
So, I just want to get
Does
a
that
little
make
bit more
sense though?
clear on what that means to you. Like,
But does that
what
make sense to you?
a little. So, I'm hearing that you're like, I'm honest and I say it like it is, and
Yeah,
then you're
sure.
like, but I'm not going to be vulnerable, which is also honesty. So, what part of
Yeah.
honesty makes you feel uncomfortable?
um I think being reliant on another person scares me. I think being willing to be to like count on someone else, even in like my friendships, I'm kind of like, I'm gonna do this myself because I don't trust you or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And trust is a huge part of, you know, but for me, I think um the willingness to be reliant on someone else or connected to someone so much so that you can't accomplish what you need emotionally or whatever it is without this other person. It's just like, not only does it, I guess, terrifies me, right? But it also makes me feel like I want to barf. I don't know. It's just,
Why does it
I don't
terrify
know.
you?
I don't know. It's just like one of those
What are you scared is
feelings
going to
that I
happen?
get. I don't know.
If you had a
That it's
guess, like if we were just playing and you had a guess why that would terrify you.
so a big thing for me is I like space from people. Like I'm really, again, this is me being Jekyll and Hyde and being very contradictory, but I really like being around people. I like going out. I like, obviously I'm doing this show. Obviously I'm not afraid to say whatever. I like going to restaurants, bars, whatever, being super social, life of the party. On the flip side, I value my space and my alone time a lot as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I maybe only need a day or two of it, and in balance with everything else. But when someone comes into my world, whether it be a partner that we're trying to do something long term or short term or whatever, I just get that nausea, insane, like uncomfortable feeling when they're in my space too long. It's like, okay, you've been here 2 days. Like, can you leave, or whatever? That's what's going on in my head. And I hate feeling like that. And I have a fear of feeling like that. And it's
Mm-hmm.
almost like when someone's trying to make plans with me, this has happened a couple times. They're like, yeah, I'll stay till this, or we'll just figure it out. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, no, we're not going to figure it out. Like, like, tell me so I know when you're leaving, that it's just one of those quirky things that I have about me.
Have you told them that
Yeah.
you need space?
Yeah. I think it's pretty apparent
Well,
too.
there's
Like
difference between a parent
sure.
and like actually vocalizing, I really like you, and I'm just the kind of person that I need like a day or two to myself without contact. So which one is it?
Um, I've definitely told people I don't like to like ghost somebody. I think that's really immature,
Yeah, no, I'm not saying ghosting. I'm just saying
Um,
when these girls get upset and you use the word, I think it's pretty apparent that I need time
yeah.
away.
Well,
But
I just meant that because we've had discussions, but also too, maybe I'm doing something wrong in the way that I'm saying it.
so how do you say it?
Because so let's say we're in the moment. We're out somewhere in the normal world,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, at dinner, couple of cocktails in, which never a good time to be having a conversation about needing space. Um,
No.
or like rolling around in bed. I mean, anything. It's always like, hey, this this guy. I think what happens. This is just my own personal opinion. Is I'm saying one thing
I want to
and
know
I'm
what you're saying.
acting the other way. So I'm saying,
Yes.
hey, like, yeah, stay the night tonight, and then when you leave, then I'll go do these things, and I need, I'll talk to you maybe like end of the week or whatever. But I'm also like hands all over, you know what I'm saying? So it's like my
Mm-hmm.
actions are doing one thing and my mouth is doing another. I think
Amazing job noticing
I'm in,
that.
yeah, I think I'm severely guilty of that.
Mm-hmm.
I pull people in, and I know that I do it. Some people would say that's manipulation. That's fine. I don't mean to do it. I do it. I don't know. I'm kind of tired of feeling guilty about it. I can only be
Well,
who I am.
you do it because it's your survival mechanism that you need it when you were a little boy. And
Sure.
so it makes sense to me why you do it. And I've dated guys like you a million times over, and they
Right.
dated girls like me over and over. So when I see somebody like on an online dating profile or something that's like, I don't want drama, I don't want a girl that's crazy,
Mm.
I know what type of attachment style he probably is.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's probably an avoidant and getting into a relationship with an anxious attachment style, and they're activating each other.
Mm.
So, what I'm hearing is communication, misalignment of words and actions due to also people pleasing and wanting to get your needs met, which is all humans want to get their needs met, right? So
Yeah.
you're sometimes you like you said you're not doing it on purpose to manipulate, but
Mm.
subconsciously that's what's happening. Women and men and whoever can pick up on vibes and energy and changes and habits. And I'm heterosexual. It sounds like you're heterosexual. I'm going to talk
Yeah,
from
I
that
am.
way. Anybody can apply it to their own life.
Sure.
So I know a woman knows when your habits have changed. A woman knows when your patterns have changed. So if you're going to show up one way and be like all in and all about this person, then all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is like too much for me. And she's like, what's going on? Are you talking to another girl? Like, she's picked up on the habit. She's not dumb, right?
Yeah.
She can notice
not.
it. But then on your side, you're like, what is wrong with you? I'm just taking space. Like, you don't need to be going through my phone. Like, this is crazy, right? So it activates each other. So typically you will see an avoidant and an anxious attachment style get into a relationship with each other.
Right.
And what that looks like is the avoidant usually comes on, and you can let me know how you do it, but usually they're like all into it and all about it. And then as soon as the anxious
Until they're not.
until they're not. And as soon as
Yeah.
the anxious person is like, I'm not sure, but okay, I'm on board. Then the avoidant is like, this is too much. Now you're staying 2 days. Like, I was okay with 2 days before, but now this is too much. I know that you like me, which subconsciously means you can hurt me. I need to pull away.
Right.
And then the anxious person is like, oh my God, like maybe I haven't done enough. Maybe I should do more. Like, okay, I'm going to clean this house, or I'm going to buy him dinner, or let me try to do this. And the more that they do, the more it's like, oh my God, this is like way too much. You could totally hurt me. Like, just get away from me. Like, I'm actually turned off now. Even though all you wanted was love to begin with. Now you have it, but you've never been used to receiving it. It's never really been, you never saw it mirrored in your family dynamic, and you didn't really have that with the people that you were excited to fully love you, right? Like your dad and your stepdad. Like, love hurt you. And so you create this dynamic where you can go out, like you said, and you're usually avoidants are like so charismatic, and you're super charismatic, and you meet all these people, and people start to fall in love with your personality and all of these things, and you get your attention that you crave met.
Yeah.
But when it becomes real, it freaks you out and you want to throw up on the mic and I'm done, right? But then when the girls leave, have you ever reached back out to them?
Not usually. I am insanely stubborn in that way. I feel as though when I'm done, I'm done. I might have, obviously I'm human, so I might be in the shower or, wherever and be like, damn, that'd be cool I should reach out to her. And then I might actually like even pull my phone out and go to text and be like, don't do that. And then I don't do that.
And then do you meet somebody else?
So that's usually how it would go, yeah. But I'm also like obviously, and I've talked about this particular thing. It keeps coming up actually on the show. But I've kind of like, okay, you're causing damage, step back, right? And so then COVID hit, and I've been sort of like on my own. I've had a couple, flings or whatever you want to like call it through this last year and a half or whatever it is. But I usually in normal times, I would kind of just like go out or meet people, and I'm very open to whoever is cool, whoever, or whatever. And I always find myself in situations like that, and it's wonderful, and it's a gift, and it's fucking awesome, let me tell you. But when you feel that, like, oh God, I got to get away from this person or whatever it is, it's just totally contradictory to that. When I'm on, right? But when I'm off, it's, man.
And how quickly do you normally get intimate with these girls?
Pretty quick, and even if it wasn't physical intimacy, right? It's psychological intimacy, like right away, usually. Just even maybe not even talking or texting about sex, but that sort of undercurrent of chemistry is there usually right from the get-go. and it's a blast. It's a lot of fun. And
I have
it's
so much to say about this, but I'm like, this is gonna be like a whole other podcast day.
yeah, well, we could also like do a two-parter. So I mean,
we could do a two-parter
yeah.
one day. We could talk about how women operate internally. So even though you're telling her one thing, and you're like, but I told her, like, I
Right.
told her. And
Yeah.
women are like, yeah, I can totally have a fling. 98% of women, in my opinion, and from what I have seen, cannot have, I even did a poll on this, cannot have a fling for longer than 2 months.
Yeah, I believe that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 2 months seems like a long time, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Okay, so let me introduce this chaos factor.
Wait, I have one question.
Oh, sure. No, yeah, go ahead.
What do you want? Like, what do you actually want? Do you want a relationship or do you want to be single and just have flings? Neither is right or wrong.
I both. No, I have no idea. Like I said, I feel like, yeah, I like being single a lot. I like my independence. I'm working on all sorts of creative projects right now, and it's like that's fulfilling. But on the other hand, it's like, we've been alone for quite a while. I haven't had any sort of, and I don't mean just sex, but like intimacy, like connection with whomever. That's sort of been lacking, which I'm sure for a lot of people it has with this crazy world. But I feel a pull, which a weird pull all of a sudden, it's kind of not out of nowhere, but out of the darkness, kind of suggesting or wanting to just like go to dinner with someone and learn, like sit and listen about their life and develop. I'm part of me is kind of yearning for a more stimulating connection, because I've been in like isolation for so long.
Right.
But on the other side, it's like, oh, but remember, we don't. So it's just, listen, I said it before, but like I get sick of my own shit. There's like two people
how long have
living
you
in my
been
head.
sick of your own shit?
Oh, for a long time.
So what is
super
stopping
long
you from
time.
doing something about it?
Me, the other Jekyll, like
What does your higher self want to do? Does your higher self want help to figure it out? Or
I think my higher self just gave up. It was on vacation.
Your
out
higher
of
self
office.
never gives up.
I'm just kidding.
I'm like, that's probably your ego.
Yeah, for sure. My ego is definitely working all of this. That's the problem, probably.
It's all your ego. All of it that I'm hearing is all your ego. And I don't mean ego as in, we hear ego as like a bad thing, or like, oh, they're so egotistical and they always have to be right, which that can be part of it. But there's a reason why it always has to be right. Because if it can prove that it's right, then it can stay safe. And all your ego is trying to do is keep you safe right now. And there's like a part of you that's like, I want something different. I know that there's actually love out there for me to experience. But your ego's like, we've never experienced that. You might die out there. You got to reel it in. Like anxious attachment styles, like I'm a recovering anxious attachment style.
Sure.
And we'll be like, oh my God, like I usually send 53 text messages in a row to like make sure I make sure like 53 times that oh my God, why am I like, I'm drawing a blank on the phrase. Beat that dead horse. I beat that dead horse 53 times just to make sure. And if we stop at 52, we literally will feel it's no longer about giving something another try. It's about life or death. I've never stopped at 52 times. I might die if I do that. It becomes about life or death. And same for you.
Yeah.
Same for you. If you, it's not really about giving somebody a shot. It's literally for you about life or death. Like you might die if you open yourself up. That's what your ego thinks.
Yeah. I mean, that makes so much sense. And it's pretty profound, obviously. And so what I want to do at this moment is sort of push some chaos magic into this. So you have someone like me, like worst case scenario, right? Just total jackass, mess, whatever.
You are
And
none of
then
those things. You're just in survival mode. That is it.
so with someone like me, who's probably a tough case, I would imagine. Yeah,
No,
I'm pretty dug in. Okay,
as
cool.
long as you want to make a change, I can help you, anybody make a change.
So that's awesome. That's amazing. Okay, so I would say, and I thought about this before our interview because I knew this was going to come up. I had a feeling. So, out of all of my close friends, some acquaintances, but people I went to high school with, so you have the high school set of friends, you got the college set of friends, you got the early, whatever. I would say there's probably around, I don't know, mid 20s. We'll say 25. 25 couples, 25 people who've gone and gotten married. Some have had children, some have not. Out of that 25, 23 of them are divorced. Okay. The other two are miserable. And if they're listening to this, I'll let you guys figure out who it is. But that's not a great success rate. And when you have someone like me who's like, told you so, don't get married. I've won so many bets with my friends. They owe me so much money.
How many of those couples did work on themselves before they got married?
I don't know. It's a bunch of dicks. I don't know. I'm like, probably not a lot. I mean, I would say probably a handful. So we'll say like
deep
5.
work.
Yeah, I have no idea. But I mean, doesn't that seem like a lot? That's
Because
a pretty low success rate.
I'm a firm believer that the reason why the divorce rate is so high is because of society. I feel like society says, okay, you go to school, you find your significant other. Once you're dating for 2 years, you get married, you buy the house, you have kids, you work a job that you hate, and then you die. Or you retire, but you're too old to do anything that you enjoy, and then you die.
Right.
And so much internal shifts happen from 0 to 30. And most people, or have all these people got married? How old were they when they got married?
Like mid 20s.
Yeah. They're like still growing up, basically.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Your tastes change. You change. So they're picking people typically based on how long we've been dating, how old I am, and we have some things in common. But I have no idea who I am, why I have the beliefs that I have, why I'm staying in a crappy relationship or whatever the thing is, why I feel like I should end up with this person. I have no idea why I actually think these things, and I've done nothing about it. Now all of a sudden I'm in this marriage and it's supposed to be like this great thing, and we have the wedding and the wedding is awesome. And then once the wedding is over, now you're left with
disappointment and dishes.
Well, you're left with reality, right? It's like this fairy tale before, and then you're left with reality. And like one of my clients now, we were chit-chatting in a coaching call, and she brought up how after she married this person, and they got married pretty quickly, she's like, all of a sudden we were like sitting here, and just in case they're listening, I'm not going to go into too many details, but she's like, we were sitting there.
I just blasted all my friends.
But I have client confidentiality.
No, I'm just kidding.
She's like, we're sitting there and we were doing something that he thought was super fun. She's like, and I'm like, this is like the death of me. I am so bored. I want to be doing X, Y, and Z instead. And she's like, and then my whole life flashed in front of my eyes. And she's like, this is going to be my life forever. Like, this is what he thinks is fun. But because she hadn't been at a point in her life or in her journey yet where she was ready to look at herself and take her power back from everybody, right? When I say take responsibility, what I actually mean is take our power back. Because right now, your stepdad, your dad, your mom, all these other girls, I have love for you. And because I have love for you, and being honest, they all have your power. You are not in your power. Everything else outside of you has your power right now. And so same thing with her and all my other clients. And I was the same exact way, like tenfold. everything outside of her had her power. And so until she was ready to be like, I'm tired of this shit.
Yeah.
I want my power back. I want to figure out what's going on so I can make decisions that are actually aligned for me. Now she's starting to feel amazing after
Yeah.
it's been 8 weeks, literally 8 weeks. And she's been in that pattern for 50 plus years.
Wow.
So I think it's because people don't take the time to figure out who they are, why they're operating the way that they do, overcome things, and meet somebody that's aligned.
I totally agree with you. And again, this has come up on the show prior. We don't shop for a partner. We just, we meet someone and this and that, and then we just wind up in these relationships. I don't think people are cognizant enough or aware enough. I think people put more time into what cookies they should get for cheat day more than the decision, should I date this person? And I think that's a huge problem because you're dating a stranger. You're dating a stranger and then you realize you're dating a stranger when you're married to a stranger.
But the problem is that you're a stranger to yourself meeting
Absolutely.
a stranger. So
No,
you don't even know what you're looking for.
Exactly.
When you're deciding if you should date this person or not, because you're a stranger to yourself.
100%.
And so now that you're aware, yeah, you are a dick if you're going to go out there and start dating girls.
Right.
Knowing that I'm not clear on who I am and I get to figure it out first.
That's why I put myself on a timeout.
You are in timeout. You are in the corner, in timeout. We figure it out.
Yeah, and that also brings me to the flip, on the flip side of that. Okay. So, there was, so for someone like me who's in timeout and needs to figure it out and whatever, right? How can I be so avoidant, right? How can I just be terrified of relationships and get away, I made a mistake, and or just whatever. But then you find someone who you're not like that with, because that happened to me years ago. There was someone
and
who,
how did it end?
I was not it never really ended. I mean, it's over now, obviously, but it ended like it would in a movie, like with no conclusive.
Like who broke up with, like what, how something
it
had to have happened.
Drug on for whatever. She's it was like hey, we sort of missed our opportunity. We both knew that we sort of missed our opportunity for like the third time to make it really happen, because when I had my shit together, she didn't have hers, and vice versa, and back and forth and back and forth. But there was this insane connection that kept drawing us. And then eventually I was with someone else. She met someone else. It was hey, we can't do this anymore. We have to try to make it work with these other healthy people or whatever. And so that's how it ended. But there was never, the door was always open until it wasn't, or, whatever. So, and to be honest, like, I still feel like pieces of that, there's still that door is always going to be open until it's closed. I don't know. It just feels like it never feels over. And I think that's probably, a big issue. But how can someone what was it about that person that made me like not a nutcase like I normally am?
Well, hormones and pheromones and all those things come into play.
Yeah.
Was she super anxious?
No, she's confident.
Did she need to see you all the time?
She did not. And when she did, she really made the most of it.
Okay. So she didn't need to see you all the time. So we know that anxious and avoidance are probably not the best match. So you could be with someone who's secure.
How does an avoidant and a secure work out?
Because a secure is like, all right, this if an avoidant is honest and communicates their needs, a secure person, or attachment style, I should say, is like, okay, like, this is what they need. It's fine. I don't think that they're cheating on me. I don't think anything. Like, they learned love will leave and love will come back and everything is going to be okay. They can work with it. They can give the avoidance space. But they typically say to avoidance, it's challenging for them to be in a relationship because she could have been secure, she could have been avoidant, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it was
One
probably a
of
little
you would
both.
pull away. There's not the glue to keep you two together. A secure and an anxious will help keep you together. Avoidant to avoidance. You guys are both like, oh, intimacy, no.
Yeah, and I think with us it was, we tried to pretend like something wasn't there so hard, and then it's just like, oh my God, it's so there, or whatever. So there's that. So yeah, that's fascinating. That answers my question, because I do see that in other people's relationships, and I thought about that for me. I'm like, well, wait a minute, and that's why I wanted to see like how that. Okay, so in closing, can you give these people who are listening or watching just some hope, some advice, some concrete thing to stand on if they are ready and willing to be like, these things are my flaws and I'm going to accept those and do the work and all of that stuff. What can they do right now in their day-to-day life to make their relationships better, to get back out there, whatever their journey is or whatever? What would you suggest?
Very first thing is, and I'm going to share this because of what you just shared with me.
Sure.
Sounds like there's healing that has not been done from that relationship. And you got to face that pain. And you there it is. And you got to heal from it in order to be able to be an energetic body, a mental body, and an emotional body to allow somebody in.
So heal from it, like
you're going to have to let yourself feel the emotions.
Find other women and alcohol.
Absolutely not. No.
Okay. Okay. I'm just making sure.
But that's typically how most people do heal with it, or heal from it, is they will start drinking. They will get fast food or chocolate or wine or whatever their favorite like meals are. They will find somebody else to get under, but really you're suppressing this. You're suppressing emotions, and emotions are energy in motion, and they're meant to come through, and we experience them and they leave. But we are like, oh, that one's not cute. We're going to shove it down. It's got to go somewhere so it stays in our body, and we carry it around everywhere. And this is a whole other conversation for another day, but like with law of attraction, like energy attracts like energy. So to sum it up, you have to heal. And this is probably not the thing that most people are going to want to hear. And that's okay, because who it's meant for, it will land with them. I would get help. Get help. And getting help, there's a stigma around it. And I used to feel the same way of like, there's something quote unquote wrong with me, that I need a coach or I need a therapist. There's something wrong with me. But in reality, I used to be a personal trainer, and I had a personal trainer because I couldn't see behind me. I couldn't see my blind spots.
Yeah.
And when you go to school, when we all went to school, they taught us what to think, but they didn't teach us how to think. They didn't teach us how to live life, how to deal with emotions, how to have relationships. They taught us how to ride a bike, how to draw in cursive, but they didn't actually teach us how to be an adult, right?
No.
They didn't teach us those things. And so instead of looking at it as help, as in there's something wrong with me, it's looking at it as in, oh, I'm just taking my education to another level, that the most important thing that we should have learned in school, they didn't teach us. And now I'm going to take my power back and figure these things out with an expert on this, because it goes so deep. It goes so, so, so deep. So that will be my second thing is 1, heal. 2, find someone that resonates with you, a coach or a therapist. And number 3, little things that you can start doing for yourself are, 1, pay attention to how you're speaking to yourself when you look in the mirror. Like, are you immediately picking out the things that are wrong with you, quote unquote wrong with you, that you think are wrong with you? And just notice it, and that's okay. And I'm not telling you to like look in the mirror and be like, I'm the most freaking amazing person in the entire world if you do not believe it. Because it might feel really incongruent for some people. But let's say you look in the mirror and you're like, I hate my muffin top. Like, look at my stomach, blah, 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 blah. And you pick yourself apart. Well, no matter how you talk to your stomach, does your stomach still show up for you every single day and absorb nutrients for you every single day so that you can live and keep beating it up? Yeah. Can you have appreciation for it right there? Yeah, you can at least appreciate, right? So start building your confidence and loving on yourself that way, because we cannot receive the love that we desire that we do not give ourselves. So when those girls show up to your house and they're like, oh my gosh, Dustin, I love you. You're like, no, I want love and I don't want this love. Like this doesn't even feel like love. This feels like too much, which to me tells me it might be the way that you're also thinking about yourself.
Maybe. I don't know. Too much thinking. I just feel like, I need to find a bartender or like,
No.
what? Yeah, no, that's amazing though, what you said. And I think that is, do the fucking work, people, right? Like, I'm guilty, y'all are guilty, but
I was guilty.
Yeah.
And now I always have a coach.
Right. No, that's amazing. Being human is not easy.
No, it is
let
not.
alone being in relationships with other human beings. And I love the idea of, get to know you first before you take you to the dance. I love that concept.
Yeah. And my last little mantra that I'll leave everybody with is, if you don't ask, you'll never know. For anything in life, whether you want it to be your dream job or a person that you want to date or you want space. If you don't ask, you'll never know. And so you don't want to be 80 years old, lying in bed, thinking back on your life, being like, I wonder if what would have happened if I would have got a coach? What would have happened if I would have let that person in and love me? What would have happened if I would have asked for my dream job? Much better to just know, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you don't ask, you'll never know.
Exactly. And I love that. And you're fucking amazing.
Thank you.
This has been a really killer episode, and I think people are gonna hopefully derive a lot of value out of it. Jacqui Pugh, where can people find you, Jacqui?
Yeah, they can find me on Instagram, which is Jacqui_Pugh. That's JACQUI_P like Paul, UGH, or JacquiPugh.com. Or you can go to Facebook.com/Let's Get Unzipped.
Yes, go find her, you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I hope it provided you some insight.
Yeah, totally. Huge thanks to Jacqui Pugh for being on the show. Awesome conversation. I hope you guys are enjoying the show. If you are enjoying these shows, there's a couple ways you could show that love. If you're listening on platforms like Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, whatever, you can subscribe to the show. You can also leave a review if you're digging it. If you're watching on YouTube, hey, what's up? How are you doing? You can also subscribe on YouTube. You can like the video. You can leave a comment. You can always DM me on Instagram. You can always DM me on Twitter. Just slide right in there. I will see you guys next week. I can't wait.
Thanks for listening. The party continues next week. Click subscribe and let's make this a regular thing. Follow the show on Instagram and Twitter @SexPartyFM. Follow Dustin @Dustin Rybka.